Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Hearthstone 4, the New Order of America. Let us continue on from where we last left off. So the election season is underway. Of course, we are supporting the NPP. We're currently campaigning on the East Coast. I don't know where exactly, because I don't think we gotta choose like which state exactly. I think we maybe are campaigning right now in Pennsylvania. But either way, you know, there's all the tiny states are up here. Who cares? I mean, actually, we do care because it's still 2 seats per state, so the tiny ones are pretty good. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. From the sun-drenched hills, revenge-laden neighborhoods, and wild underground economies of the Bay Area comes the debut novel under one Ken Kesey. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. It's bizarre, profane, provocative, and a gauntlet thrown onto the table of American literature. Inspired by Kesey's work as a psychiatric orderly in Menlo Park, California, the novel follows one Randy McMurphy. McMurphy is a veteran of Scotland and a proud street brawler, and is sentenced to time in a psychiatric hospital for battery and illicit gambling. There he meets a number of characters, including one of the novel's narrator, Chief, and the tyrannical head nurse, Nurse Ratchet. Over the course of the novel, McMurphy challenges Ratchet's rule, standing up for himself and the other patients of the ward. He's awarded for this with a lobotomy, courtesy of Ratchet. The novel ends with Bromden smothering McMurphy in an act of mercy before escaping for freedom. Cuckoo's Nest has already garnered a fair share of accolades and controversy alike. Many are calling it a patrol of America's own authoritarian systems in an age where the nation is supposedly a bastion of liberty in the world. Hollywood star Kirk Douglas is rumored to be seeking the adoption rights, while schools across America are rumored to be banning it. I'm so crazy, I plan to vote for Keffer again this November. Oh, and there's protests in Birmingham. The civil rights movement is reaching its crescendo. All across America, there are protests, rallies, and riots hosted by civil rights activists, and they get worse by the month. Just this week, a massive march was held in Birmingham, Alabama, the heart of the segregationist South, with tens of thousands of activists, white and black alike, calling for equal rights. Although it started civil, local chief police Eugene Bull Connor quickly deployed riot police and set dogs loose on the protesters. This peaceful march quickly turned into a running battle in the streets between police and activists. This event was widely televised across the nation, with average Americans shocked by the police brutality on display in Birmingham. Many of the more liberal news sources across the United States have likened the events of Alabama to those in Germany decades ago, citing police brutality and the suppression of activists to draw parallels with the Nazi regime. All voters will trend more liberal on the cause of civil rights over the span of the next 2 weeks. There was a way, the popularities. Can I see here? Okay, this is saying we're popular everywhere. NPP, of course, we're more supportive of the progressives up in the north and a little bit more in the flyover states. Because this is back, you know, the 60s, 50s, 60s, back when like the Central America, not Central, you know what I mean, Middle America, very like pro-farmer labor. So again, we don't care about the presidential election. Hide the states not for election. Hey, that actually works for me. Thank you. Okay, now I know that there's a way somewhere to see kind of how specific American demographics feel, but I don't know exactly where we see it right now. Okay, Hitler's named Bormann to be his successor, kind of to be expected. Where are you going? You're going over to California. That's fine. Are my units ready to go over to Malaysia yet? Because the longer we dilly-dally on this, the worse we need to be at 36.7%. Maybe we do just send volunteers over now. Do you have what's your penalty for jungle? Negative 55. What are you? Your mechanized divisions? I'm assuming the tanks also would not do very well in the jungle. They had taken a negative 50, negative 60. But you know what? They have like a ton of armor. And great breakthrough. And I don't think the breakthrough gets reduced. So you know what? Let's just send over some battle tanks. They'll be... no, that's stupid. They'll be slow as hell. Let's just send over 2 divisions here. Nothing too crazy. Throw in John DeLevel. We will deploy you. Can I send you air volunteers? I can. I don't know if you have an airport, though, but... we will send our troops over. They do have an airfield. Okay, good, 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 good. I should have an air force somewhere. Fighters. I want somebody who has ground support capabilities. I don't think the Japanese really have anything over there. Which one of you? I know these symbols are a little bit messed up right now. Is it you? Okay, let's just send in your strategic bombers. Your tactical missiles. Okay, let's just send in the fighters then. Just for right now. It gives you air superiority bonus anyways, I think. Yeah, let's do air superiority. I actually do interception missions here, just in case the Japanese are sending something over. Counter protests in Birmingham. 1 week ago, civil rights activists held a protest in Birmingham, Alabama, that quickly devolved into a riot. Now, tens of thousands of people opposed to the civil rights movement have staged a counter-march, waving the flags of the Confederacy, their home state, and even a few swastikas. In comparison to the previous week, the police chief didn't even bother deploying more than a few lightly equipped beat cops, several of which joined in the protest. Furthermore, there are reports that pro-civil rights activists attempting to flock Birmingham to continue the movement have been driven out by the city by police and locals alike, with several would-be protesters returning home battered and bruised. With the rising violence in Birmingham and elsewhere, Vice President Kennedy has reportedly convinced President Nixon to consider federalizing the Alabama National Guard and deploying it to restore order in the state. Okay, now all voters are going to become a little bit more conservative. Okay. So that's going to be the anti... Can I do you quite yet? The answer is no, because the coalition hasn't split yet. Country's not in crisis. We are not in crisis. The Indian subcontinent. Let's do one Germany after this. Let's crack the steel curtain. Pandit Nehru goes to Washington. President Richard Nixon met with West Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru in the White House today. The meeting, the first between Nixon and Nehru, was the first stop of the Prime Minister's visit to the United States, soon to be followed by multiple stops in Washington, Virginia, and New York. At the Oval Office, President Nixon reaffirmed America's commitment to deepening America's political and economic ties to India. India is a vast nation, blessed with a multitude of resources and a rising population. It is the belief of this administration that the United States of America would be foolish if it were to not embrace your republic and all the opportunities that it would offer the world. Following the president's remark, Prime Minister Nehru returned with cordial of his own. The people of India are on the verge of great success in the fields of economic, social progress, and national development. We wish to use this success to join hands with the free world, and I would like to thank the president for his efforts to bring our nations closer together. What's next? Hamburgers in Bombay. Again, this is our ally over here. Not the stinky Azine government. Not those stinky boys. We don't like them very much. The innocent question of geography. Mrs. Denton, why is there a big empty space on the map? The grade 8 teacher looked towards a big wall map that the young girl had pointed to. There's a large gray space in Eurasia that Mr. Denton remembered being colored red for the Soviet Union when she was in school 30 years before, now labeled Russian anarchy. If you look at the atlas, cartographers would have tried to outline where the biggest warlord groups were, but that changed every year. Sometimes over the week, as one group would rise to power and another decline. She didn't envy that thankless, never-ending job. Well, Mary, that is where Russia used to be, Mrs. Denton replied. Why isn't Russia there anymore? Mary asked. It's complicated, Mrs. Denton replied, before flipping open her book to continue talking about the curriculum mandated discussion of Manifest Destiny. But isn't that history? And aren't we in a history class? Mary asked again. Mrs. Denton sighed. Okay, short version from what I know. The Germans defeated the Soviet Union in the war, but didn't take over the whole country, leaving the rest to be fought over. Some are communists, like in the Soviet Union, while others want to bring back the old empire. And others want to be democratic like us here in America, she said. Now, if you can turn to, why can't they all just get along and beat up the Germans? Andrew asked. I bet my dad would join the army to kick Germany's ass again. Andrew, that's not a good word to use, Mrs. Denton admonished. But by now, the whole class was talking, and more appropriately yelling, about how their dad, their brother, or they themselves would work with unified Russia to beat up Germany again, totally derailing the class. Mrs. Denton sighed, but the bell rang the moment later, hopefully ending the talk about the sad, sad story of Russia for now. Class dismissed. This is one of my favorite things about TNO. I love all of the kind of world building that exists in the New Order. Not that it doesn't exist in other mods. You know, Kaiserreich, of course, has a lot of world building of their own. But I feel like Kaiserreich has a lot more, lot of the world building that's in Kaiserreich is a lot more like the political scale and like bigger aspect stories. Whereas, you know, in a New Order, they love telling us like little one-offs about a classroom or about, you know, a kid going off to war or joining the Navy. I think joining the Navy, whatever he was doing. I like those tiny little human stories, which Kaiserreich does have some of, but not as many as I would like, at least personally. Okay, we have more production units. What do I want? I forget you can't actually click that button. It'd be too easy. You know, let's just like pre-assign these. Let's go to like just 100 and then 100. Just so I don't have to think about this release a little while longer. Do I have any more buildings here? No, but the hospitals are coming around quite nicely. You know what? Let's build some nuclear reactors just like around the country. Sounds good to me. I don't even know what the hell they do, but who doesn't love a good nuclear reactor? But our boys have now arrived in Malaysia. Of course, it is going to take them a billion years to get anywhere. That's fine. A house divided. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall. But I do expect it to cease to be divided. It will all become one thing or all the other. Through the institution of slavery was torn down at the end of the Civil War by the 13th Amendment, a failed reconstruction and decades of Jim Crow ensured that the issue of race would not and could not be solved. As the divides within the Republican-Democratic coalition grow, debates turning to fights and friends turning to enemies, the truth only became clearer and clearer. The coalition as it stands cannot be saved. Yet there is still time to act. America must once again reckon with the issues of race, but be it through words or war, and we can only pray the less blood be shed this time around. For the fate of the world rests upon this near divided house. Okay, so the coalition has now split. Do I choose? Okay. We're going to go for Nixon. We're going to crack down on the civil rights movement. Not that I... just because, again, I think it'll bolster the... it'll bolster the power of the progressives in the NPP. I believe, at least. Based on what I'm reading on this. Okay, foreign policy. I would like to sabotage their war efforts in Malaya, please and thank you. And is this the only... They don't own... No, they don't have any territory in Borneo. That's a different government. Okay, well, we're getting our troops, our supply back up. You're actually hills. You're actually not... You're urban. Are we not actually doing with that much... I thought we'd be dealing a little bit more with the... What do you call it? The jungles here. And, you know, I do want to see if we can move our troops in. What are our numbers looking like? I mean, our breakthrough is fantastic, and I'm happy with that. A family dinner. The Dirksen Building's cafeteria was a common haunt for senators on lunch break. Today, they would play host to the most prestigious pair. They would play host to the most prestigious pair. Vice President John Fitzgerald Kennedy sat thoughtfully chewing on the turkey sandwich. Opposite him was a smiling man who the coalition register knew as a Democratic senator, who John had always known as his brother. It's been too long since we've taken time for ourselves, said John with a smile. How are you, Bobby? Athos still taking good care of you, I hope? Robert Francis Kennedy laughed at a playful wink as his brother gave him. I can hardly complain about the home life, Jack. His grin faded. Still, current events haven't explicitly been great in my sleep. The older Kennedy nodded sympathetically. The violence is getting worse for sure, he frowned. Nixon's being a stick in the mud about it isn't helping things much either. He still won't endorse any legislation on that matter. Can't you do something about it? As long as the president sits on the fence, things will only get worse. I love to, but you know how Nixon is, muttered John, idly stirring in his coffee. Knowing him, he'd probably just veto whatever we put in front of him and yell at us for fracturing coalition unity. But this is a matter far more important than coalition unity, Jack. There are millions of Americans, millions of good, honest people being cast aside for things that are far beyond their control. The longer we wait, the greater suffering will be. Facing his brother with an intense but encouraging look, he continued, "You're the vice president. At the very least, you can use your voice in the name of those who have no voice." John was silent for a moment, but then smiled. "You've always been a good man, Bobby. You're right. Of course I must act." Well, we already know, based on what I've already decided, probably going to get vetoed, would be my guess. Now, we are making some good pushes. Again, we want to be making our way towards Singapore where we can. Malacca City. The thing is, we got to make sure we don't get too far ahead of the our Malaysian allies here. 87, looking good. Keep pushing, keep pushing. We're happy with where we're at. We got our allies coming in here. And we're pushing our way towards Singapore. This is beautiful. Okay, Singapore has fallen. The Prime Minister of Australia has resigned. I don't think I care that much. We could get like an encirclement here. Lost production units. Not a big deal. This is a prison breakout in the Reichskommissariat Moskauven. Okay. A stellar NPP campaign. The results of our most recent regional campaign have been nothing short of stellar. Our fundraising has exceeded expectations from small dollar and major PAC contributions alike. Hell yeah. Okay, so that means that we can now campaign again. Again, I want to see the popularities for the NPP. Probably want to maybe go somewhere on like the West Coast. Again, I want to. Who's not? Okay, so a lot of these are not up for grabs. Very close. Very close. Can I choose California? I don't know if I selected California or if we're kind of going everywhere right now, but okay, I think it's just the whole region. That's fine. Campaign on the West Coast. Happy to see it. Let's see if we can turn you guys around. How where do we need to get these guys to actually get them killed off? RDC runs a massive campaign in the Upper South. Fuck you. Okay, anyways. You are currently at 10, so you need to get down to 0. I want you over here for a quick moment so we can actually kill you off. I do see some Japanese troops here, but that should get wiped out sooner rather than later. Fidel Castro has taken power in Cuba, which I believe we're happy about, if I'm remembering correctly, because he is, you know, of course, anti-Germany. Bring you up here, move you towards the new capital, push you here as well. A German spy arrested. According to his landlord, Joseph Greenberg was a rather unassuming fellow. He paid his rent on time, never had any noise complaints, was always helpful. Always helped old Mrs. Connors carry her groceries up the stairs. In reality, this was all to cover. Something the landlord learned as she opened Greenberg's empty apartment in the sight of piles of surveillance equipment and folders of swastika stamped upon them. I feel like if I was running a covert operation, I wouldn't stamp my own logo on stuff. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing something. Then quickly, she called the police, who in turn informed the FBI and arrested Greenberg this morning as he left for work. Joseph Greenberg was revealed to actually be Josef Hansen, an agent for the German Abwehr, ironically disguised as a Jewish American. His mission was to secure a job at Bell Telephone, study their communication infrastructure, and identify flaws in their installation of wiretaps and other espionage methods. I can tell you, it's Bell Telephone. The flaws are numerous. I think he'll be very busy for a long time. Even more concerning was that his phone book had a telephone number of several local MPP politicians inside, and it seemed that he was trying to contact the PAC's fringe elements, including the fascist agitator Francis Parker Yockey. Charges of violation of the Espionage Acts are already being brought against him, though he will likely end up simply being deported back to Germany, rather than facing a long prison term in the United States. One less Nazi to worry about. Can you... Strong Two Eyes taking control of the Vietnamese government. The Vietnamese government is... Yeah, they are very much pro-Japan. Okay, I want you to hold position. I want you to move up here. 458 defense is a little bit of a pain in the ass. Yes, we want to crack down on the civil rights movement. Because again, if I'm reading this correctly, the progressives in the coalition may react poorly to our plan. And I think that's what I want, unless I'm mistaken and I'm reading it wrong. I want the progressives to not have or to be upset. Cracking Fortress Europe. President Nixon stared at the world map projected on the screen in the White House briefing room. At the center was America, encircled, facing the Japanese and their colonial minions in the west, and the Germans and their slave empire in the east. But where the Japanese and the Americans have only recently escaped Armageddon's embrace in Hawaii, the Nazi Empire was fraying at its seams. Hitler grew older and more infirm by the day. No amount of clever camera work and pre-recorded speeches could hide his creaking gait. His once memorizing oratories shrunken into a senile rambling. Germany's moon landing was not a triumph, it was an epitaph. Secretary of Defense Melvin Laird looked upon the latest CIA intelligence brief on the German Reich. It's a house of cards, Mr. President. Britain chafes under a foreign occupier, the French government can't keep the country together, and the Norwegians continue to resist decades of occupation. And our African colonies will wither on the vine without support. All held together by a man who can't finish a sentence without forgetting where it started, Nixon noted. When Hitler goes, his successors will fall over themselves to split the spoils, like Alexander's general did in antiquity. Laird handed over a sheaf of documents from the CIA folder. This is an opportunity in a lifetime. We'll never get another shot at crippling the Nazis like this. It's time to get back to the old world. Now I'm kind of thinking, because we can, I don't know how much into this tree we'll actually get through. I don't quite remember. But the question is, like, do we want to support Speer when the Civil War actually begins? I'm not too sure, honestly. It'll be, or like, do we just not get involved? I mean, we'll have to see when we kind of get there. But I will also see, I think that right now, I think it's a really good time for us to end this episode for today. So if you enjoyed, thumbs up. Not a joke, close them down. You want to see more, subscribe, and goodbye.